What is trigonometry? Trigonometry is all about measuring triangles. If we have a triangle, let's say we want to measure the height of the tree and we can't climb it. We don't have anything tall enough to do it. Well, we measure two other parts of the triangle. We can measure the distance from a spot to the bottom of the tree, and we can measure the angle. Using these, we can calculate the height of the tree. We don't actually have to measure it directly. Another example here is, let's say we're trying to build something in the workshop and we want to put a piece of wood across here. Now we need to cut off the tips of this wood. We need to figure out the angle to do that. We measure the two sides of the triangle and we use trigonometry to calculate the angle that we need to cut these. The first thing we're going to learn in trigonometry is called the tangent ratio. A ratio is comparing two things. And for this particular ratio, we're going to compare the opposite side to the adjacent side. We have to start with our chosen angle. Now, we can never choose the 90-degree angle. It has to be one of the smaller ones. And in this case, we know this is our chosen angle, our arc there, and a 32-degree side. So we're going to use this angle to label it. Now, we're going to start with the opposite side. The opposite is going from your chosen angle across to the opposite side. The adjacent side that connects these two angles. It's always connecting the chosen angle and the 90-degree angle. Now we can see from this triangle, this side, the opposite side, is shorter than the adjacent side. We can see it's definitely longer. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our calculator and calculate exactly how much. So I'm going to type in tangent 32. When I press equals, I get a long number, 6248. Now, we can round this, but we always have to keep 4 decimal places, 0.6249. Now, what this tells me is that this side is 0.6249, whatever the units are, and the adjacent is 1. We're always comparing the two sides. Whatever the calculator gives us, that gives us the exact length of this one compared to the adjacent. And adjacent in this case will always be 1. Before we move on, I want to make sure you know how to use your calculator to find out these answers. To calculate the tangent ratio in your calculator, first of all, you have to look at what type it is. So these ones are all two-line display. You can actually see what you're typing and get the answer on the second line. So they're all pretty much the same. We always do it in the order that you see it. Type in tan 25. You can see each one is a slightly different, but they all have the tangent button on the first, second, or third row. So type it in, get your answer. If you have a one-line display, and this is what it kind of looks like, you're just going to do everything backwards. Type in the number, in this case 15, then press the tan button. In this case, you don't have to press equals. It's automatic when you touch tan, and this includes an iPhone or a calculator on the phone. Make sure you put the number first, tan button. The one exception is a sharp, and specifically a sharp with a DAL sign on it. These ones operate like a two-line calculator. You're going to type in tan first and then the number. What happens if your calculator is not in degree mode? So first of all, maybe you don't even know if it is. Check at the top of your screen. Most companies will have a rad or a degree, DEG, at the top of the screen. It's very small. Take a look at the top. Now, this sharp calculator is in radian mode, so we'll have to change it. If we look at the Casios always use the first letter. So this one, it's a small d inside of a box. It's hard to read, but this one is in degree mode. So taking a look at the different companies, each one is slightly different. The Casio is always the hardest to switch up. So Casio, if you have an older model and it has a button right here that says mode CLR or clear, we're going to press this one twice and then choose the appropriate mode. Degree mode for most of these will be number 1. The newer models have a mode setup button. If you have this one, you're going to press shift first and then mode setup. You're going to go into setup, and I believe it's number 3 for most of these calculators that you'll choose. Whatever it is, choose the one that has DEG on it. The rest of them are pretty simple. They all have a button that have DRG. It's quite often at the top or on the right-hand side. Just keep pressing it. As you press it each time, it will switch modes. There's 3 different ones, so just keep pressing until you see DEG at the top of your screen. And the TI-36 Pro, you just go to mode. Just like the Casio, press it, and then choose the appropriate option once you get in, and then you've got degree mode. Double check, calculate something that you know the answer to, make sure it's in degree mode, and then you're good to go. One-line calculators are almost the same. The one exception, of course, is Casio. If you press the mode on the Casio, you won't get a display like you do on the nicer calculators. You can look at the back of your calculator. There's probably a little menu, but I'm guessing it's mode number 4. If that doesn't work, look up on YouTube, type in the name of your calculator, put in the model brand, and you should be able to find a video that tells you exactly how to do it. iPhones, you just have a button in the bottom corner. It only has 2 options. You press rad and you get radians. It'll show up with DEG. If you press that, you're back to degrees. So to practice, I want to go over 4 different triangles that I've got here. Each one is slightly different. Now the first one is 10 degrees. We can see it's a small angle. And from this, we can definitely see that it is a small length. So if I put this in, if I type in 10 degrees, I get 0.1763, a very small number, and it's obvious that it's a small side. So this side is 0.1763, adjacent is 1. The next one, if we type in tan 30 into our calculator, I always want to have 4 decimals, so I've put 5 here. The 5th decimal, we can see that this is bigger than that one, and definitely the side is much bigger. The adjacent is always 1 in this example. Tan 45, if we plug this in, we get a 1, which makes sense. 45 degrees, this must be 45 degrees as well, which means the sides are identical, 1 and 1. And if we go up to 70, we can see it's getting much bigger. We type this in. 5th decimal is larger than 5. I'm going to round to 2.7475. Always 4 decimal places. So we can see, obviously, this is much longer. It is 2.7 times bigger. And the adjacent is always 1. So I want you to try that on your own calculator. Make sure you're getting the same answers that I'm getting. If not, check the degree mode. Make sure you're in degrees, and make sure you're using the tan button correctly.